straight away. Basis of accounting. Uh, in fact, there are various bases which have been working in past, but presently there are mainly two systems. One is cash basis of accounting and another is accrual basis of accounting. In cash basis of accounting, we are recording the transactions by which revenues, costs, assets, and liabilities all are reflected in the accounts for the period in which they have been actually received. Means whatever we are recording in our books of accounts, those are on the actual payments made or payments received during that particular period. If I have done the work, I have raised, not raised the invoice, I have completed the task, but I'm not supposed to get the payment. So that will not be recorded in that basis of accounting. And then comes accrual basis of accounting. In case of accrual basis of accounting, like whatever transactions have happened, whether we have received in terms of money or not, whether we have paid in terms of cash or bank or not, it will be recorded in the accounting books. Why so? Because if I have purchased something, though as per payment terms, I have to make the payment after one month or 2 months, but the liability to the business has already accrued. So if I have like raised the invoice, I have rendered services, I have supplied some products to people, but I am supposed to get the payment after 2 months, but still it will be included in my income and expenditure because my receipts have already been acknowledged by the receiver and my payments are already acknowledged by me. So my receipts are my assets, my payments which I have to make are my liabilities. So this accrual basis is very much in practice nowadays, and most of the business entities are working on this basis. Cash basis has a very limited practical scope. Only like mostly professionals are applying it, and that too with a very small kind of small turnover professionals are adopting this cash basis of accounting. And the basic advantage with cash basis is that if I have, suppose, today now GST is everywhere. Suppose if I raise the invoice today and I am supposed to get the payment after 1 year, then my GST liability accrues at this very moment. So just to bypass that thing, just to avoid that thing to the future, when I'm actually receiving the payments, we go for the cash basis. Otherwise there is no good point to follow the cash basis of accounting. So we, most of the organizations are adopting accrual basis. Next slide please. This is classification of income and expenditure. We can basically classify our all incomes and all expenses, or you can say our all receipts and all payments in three parts. One is capital, another is revenue, and third one is deferred. I've already shared this information in the group. So if you recall that, capital expenses are those which have long-term effect. Suppose if I'm buying a fixed asset, if I'm buying a plant and machinery, land, building, office, so that will always last for more than 1 year. So a item which or an expenditure which is going to last for more than 1 year is termed as capital expenditure. Like fixed assets are there, goodwill is there, then preliminary expenses. Preliminary expenses are those expenses which we are incurring to start the business. So whatever we have started, we have spent for starting the business, like taking various registrations, doing project work, doing paying a consultancy, bearing some legal expenses. So all that can be capitalized, and that can be later on like adjusted in our few years over a period of time. So that is a capital expenditure for the business. Then basic idea you can just keep in mind that whatever we are doing, whatever expenditure we are incurring to bring an asset or to bring a business into the working conditions. Suppose I'm having a machine which is not in working condition. So if I want, suppose that that's an old machine, it's lying with me, but I want to put it into operations once again. So whatever expenditure I'm making to bring that machine into the working condition will be considered as capital expenditure. So, another interesting part of this is that this capital expenditure as a business rule, there is no law as such for this, but as a business practice, this capital expenditure should be met through long-term capital or through borrowings. Like if I want to buy a new machinery, if I want to buy a new office, this for this purpose, I should not divert my revenue receipts. My revenue, like whatever income I am getting from my revenue part, that should not be diverted. It should be either some capital infusion from the promoters themselves, or there should be some borrowing, or it can be a mix of it. Maybe say 40-60, some kind of that financial arrangement can be made through that. Then next comes is revenue uh, expenditure and revenue income. It has always a short-term effect. Short-term effect means it should be within 1 year. Like if I have incurred some expenditure for which I will be getting benefit only for say 1 month, like salary I'm paying for every month. So that is a revenue expenditure. Rent I'm paying is a revenue expenditure. Income tax I'm paying for 1 whole year. That is also a revenue expenditure. GST I am paying, that is again a revenue expenditure. So all those expenses which keep the business going are termed as revenue expenses. Similarly, whatever incomes we are receiving, whatever funds we are getting from our routine operations of the business will be considered as revenue incomes. Another interesting fact is, like, if whatever thing for the capital expenditure or capital receipts, that is all subject to the reflection in the balance sheet. Whereas this is very fine point, but this is a very, you can say it's a very subtle point. So you always remember this thing, that whatever capital expenditure we are doing or whatever capital receipts we are getting, that will not affect our profit and loss account. Whereas our revenue aspect will be reflected in the profit and loss account. So whatever sales we are having during the year, whatever expenditure we are doing, whatever expenditure we are incurring to get that sales, to keep that entire business going on, that all will be considered as the revenue expenditure as well as revenue income. Revenue expenditure should be met. Necessarily, it should be met through revenue incomes. At the initial stage, suppose I have just started my business, my production just started rolling in. So in that case, suppose I need say 2-3 months of salaries, 2-3 months of my things going on. So for that, we can fund it through the working capital financing. But revenue expenditure should never be financed through the capital receipts. Suppose I have taken a term loan for purchasing a machinery and I have diverted it into the working capital. Rather, I have diverted it to pay the salaries. This should never happen. This puts the whole business, the entire business, in such a mess that you cannot rectify it even after 5 years, 4 years, 5 years of the working. At the same time, whatever money you have kept for your revenue expenditures, that should not be deployed towards the fixed assets. Suppose you have made enough big profits during last 3-4 years, then you can utilize it as a like reserves that we will discuss later on. But initial, whatever your rolling funds are there, whatever your working capital is there, that you should never deploy towards buying a capital assets, for acquiring the capital assets. Next comes, we'll just have a quick look at the what are examples of capital expenditure, like assets, furniture, plant and machinery, land, building, goodwill, preliminary expenses we have already seen, cost of additions or extension of the existing assets, then cost of overhauling, Then overhauling of the second-hand machines. As I told you, if I put a old machine to the use, and expenditure related to that will be considered under the capital expenditure. Then one basic funda you can just keep in mind: whatever cost we are incurring to increase the capacity of the business is this thing. Will be considered as the capital expenditure. And then revenue expenditure we have already discussed, like salaries, wages, rent, rates, taxes, purchase of materials, purchase insurance premiums, legal expenses, taxes, consumable stores, chemicals, what all you consultancy payments, like that all is covered under the revenue expenses. So a third one is there. Third one is like deferred revenue expenses. Deferred revenue expenses are those expenses which give you the benefit for more than 1 year. Suppose I have taken a massive advertising campaign. Its effect we are going to get for next 4 years. So that will be considered as a deferred revenue expenditure. How to treat these deferred revenue expenses in our books of accounts? Like suppose I have incurred a 1 crore of rupees on the advertising, and I know it is going to last for 4 years. So every year we will put to revenue 25% of it. So like in first year, 25 lakhs we will charge to our revenue, or we will book in our profit and loss account, and 75% of it, means 75 lakhs, will be considered as capital expenditure. Means in other terms, if we just see that 25% is 25 lakhs will come as revenue in profit and loss account, and 75 lakhs will be reflected as asset lying in the balance sheet. So this is the basically accounting treatment for the deferred revenue expenses. Like we sometimes we incur heavy business development expenses. Sometimes we pay insurance for a period of 3 years. If you are buying car, you have to pay insurance for 3 years. So 1/3 of that insurance will be for basis on the basis of the months. Suppose say it is for 36 months. I have in this year I have used only 4 months. So 1/9 of my total insurance will be charged to my revenue, and rest 27 months will go to the 31 months will go to the capital, like balance sheet. It will become balance sheet item. Like if you take some heavy repairs in your plant and machinery, or say some heavy repairs in the building, or some additions in the building, so it will go to, and which is the benefit of which is going to last for more than 1 year, then definitely we will consider that as a deferred revenue expenditure. In case of deferred revenue expenditure, both sources at the project stage through capital, and for going concern for the revenue receipts. Like if I'm at the project installation stage, so my deferred revenue expenses can be meet out through the capital receipts, means long-term funds. But in case of revenue receipts, in case of revenue going concern, it should be met out of the revenue receipts. So this is one important thing we need to consider keep it in our mind. So next slide, please. Yeah, accounting cycle. As we have talked, what is revenue, what is capital, but how the journey of accounts, books of accounts will start and end. Because our accounting transaction starts with a small transaction. But in case of profit and loss account, suppose we have thousands of transactions even during a month. And then you can say 12,000 transactions during a year. But that whole summary of 12,000 transactions will be reflected in terms of 2 pages. It will only be reflected in 2 pages in the shape of profit and loss account and balance sheet. So this is whole journey of accounting transaction getting converted into the profit and loss account. So first, it begins with the recording of transaction. What is recording of transaction? As you can recall that if you go to the bank, you deposit a check or you deposit a cash, what you get a pay-in slip. Pay-in slip is the record of that transaction. If you go and buy some stationery item, or if you go and pay to your cab, if you go travel, so your air ticket, all these are the beginning of the recording transactions. So this will form the basis. This is the basis of your transaction. These transactions have to be written in a particular way, because we cannot compile our final accounts. We cannot make profit and loss account on the basis of these small documents. We have to have a proper account, proper book of accounts, on the basis of which we can draw our profit and loss account. So we have to convert these transactions, basis of transactions, into the voucher or journal, depending upon the practice prevailing in that particular organization. Vouching is like we prepare voucher, or either we prepare journal, depending upon the our policy. Then from that voucher or journal, we post that everything into the ledger. Here you please remember only these terms. We will discuss in next slides to come. Then ledger. Then comes from ledger, we prepare trial balance. And from trial balance, we prepare final accounts, means profit and loss and balance sheet. So from recording of transaction, we cannot directly go to the final account. So we have to follow this particular cycle. Next slide, please. Yes, here comes the voucher. Voucher is what? It is a written instrument. Yesterday, somebody has asked me what is voucher. So I felt really good. That is a written instrument that serves to confirm or witness, as in our normal practice also, we say that I vouch this statement, I confirm this statement. Then here also, vouching is nothing but the confirmation of a transaction. And this also indicates that what all ledger accounts will get affected through this transaction. Suppose I have purchased something, so my purchase account will get affected, and my cash, I have paid cash, so my cash account will get affected. So what all accounts will get affected by this particular transaction, it has to be recorded in the voucher. And one thing always to remember, that these accounts and all is like coded information. But what is the story of this transaction? Why I made this payment? So that has to be given in the form of narration. And narration is the very important part of the voucher. Even after 10 years of the transaction, someone wants to track that transaction, he can go back to that narration, to that voucher, and he can just understand what this whole thing was. So narration should be that explanatory. Like suppose a sale transaction has occurred, so we have to give the invoice number, like name of party and cash or bank, whatever, or goods, whatever will be part of our main body of the voucher. But narration will say that it was sale of what item, what product, whether it was gehu, or it was rice, or it was something else, or it was some steel material, or whatever. Suppose I have 10 products, so which product it was sold exactly. So that narration will give you the complete story about the vouchers. Vouchers are basically uh, uh, 4 types. But like business entities design vouchers as per their own requirement. Like banks design their own vouchers, service industry people design their own vouchers. So it is not like that a very universal kind of vouching system is in place. No, like everyone will decide according to their nature of business. But basically, if we classify it broadly, it will be like payment vouchers, receipt vouchers. Both these can be in terms of cash, in terms of bank. So we can have 4 kind of vouchers: cash payment, cash receipt, cash bank payment, and bank receipts. So these are 4 kinds. Then we have non-cash vouchers. What are non-cash vouchers? Like whatever we are buying in terms of what you call like on credit, that all will go to the non-cash transfers. So in case of non-cash transfers, the name of the party is very important. The name of party has to be there. because if I have purchased something or sold something, so if name of party is there, then definitely his he will be recorded in our accounts that I have to pay something. Suppose I have purchased something worth 1 crore from A Limited. So unless I mention the name of A Limited, my liability to pay A Limited will not reflect in my accounts. So that should reflect. So here there are certain non-cash transfers. So that has also to be recorded. And then, no, please, yeah. Then fourth type of transactions are vouchers are supporting or documentary vouchers. There are certain transactions which do not have anything, but the working of that voucher is like working on transactions. Transaction is based on certain document like calculation of amortization. So all these things are based on certain documents. So these are known as the supporting or documentary evidence. Next slide, please. Yeah, now comes the ledger. Ledger is a most important book of the business. This is also known as the principal book. Like voucher is for every transaction, ledger is for every account. Suppose from A Limited, I have transacted for 10 times in a year. So all those 10 transactions, for those 10 transactions, you need to refer 10 vouchers. But if you look at ledger, all the 10 transactions will be recorded in the one ledger account only. So all the 10 transactions you can find at one place. Like here, then it contains the accounts, then it maintains the name-wise record. Suppose you want to track the record of your bank. So you can simply go to that particular bank account. You will get to know that what all has been deposited, what all has been withdrawn from the bank. So it will give you the summarized date-wise summary of related to one particular account. And every transaction has to be reflected in particular ledger. If doesn't exist in ledger, then that transaction has never happened. It is considered like this. So like I have given us this format for it. Like we have to give date, particulars, reference number. Reference number can be the voucher transaction number, transaction voucher number, then amount debited, amount credited, and balance. So as on particular date, if you want to see the balance of some particular party, you need not to see those 10 vouchers. You simply have a look at the ledger. It will give you the complete reflection. Then comes your next slide, please. Then comes your trial balance. Trial balance is statement of ledger of all ledger account balances. Like I told you that on particular date, we keep on writing the balances after every transaction. So what is the balance of a particular account on that particular date is written in the trial balance. Trial balance is nothing, but it is a statement of ledger account balances on a particular date. But remember this always, that trial balance is not a part of books of accounts. So trial balance, everything like cash account this much, owner's capital this much, loan account this much. So all these accounts will go for this, like everything will be reflected in the trial balance, debit balances and credit balance. The beauty of trial balance is that it has always debits equal to credits. Then this forms as a basis for preparation of financial statements. Then it ensures the arithmetical accuracy of entries made, because if its debit total and credit total does not tally, means there is some error with some account or with recording of the transactions. Then it's a quick reference. Just by looking at the trial balance, you can get to know that what is the balance of a particular party or what is your cash balance today. Then it facilitates quick analysis. We can go to the next slide. In case of present day accounting, we need not to bother too much, because if I enter one voucher in the system, in the accounting software, then it immediately will, same very moment, it will give me the reflection of that transaction in the trial balance. Now come to the profit and loss account. Profit and loss account is a statement of financial performance for any given period. Here, what all we record, we consider sales, we consider other income at one side. That is our total income. Like other income, it may include some interest, may some rent, something, all like which is beyond the purview of your normal course of business activities. So that will be other income. So total income is considered. Then cost of materials consumed, increase or decrease in stocks, then employee cost, finance cost, other expenses. Other expenses will include everything except these four heads, like cost of materials, employee cost, finance cost, and depreciation. If we leave these four heads, rest all expenses will be considered under the other expenses. And then depreciation or amortization, depreciation of the assets, say land and building, plant and machinery, what all are there, that will be considered here. Then total expenditure is there, and then we arrive at the figure of the profit before tax. We can go to the next slide. I hope this is clear. Next slide, please. Yeah. Understanding P&L. This is the main thing. This is crux of the today's this thing. Here, what we have seen that in this particular case, the previous year sale was 1080, and during current year, total income has gone up. It has gone up by some percentage. But if I look at the profit before tax, it has gone down. If I see do the ratio analysis for this, profit before tax in the last year was 36 lakhs, whereas in the current year, it has gone down to 4 lakhs. If I look at the percentage of profit, means the overall profitability, it was 3.36% in the last year, whereas in the current year, it has gone to the 0.36%. So this is the statement where we have to focus as a head of the accounts or as a head of the business. We need to see these ratios, that where are we really lagging. Like in this case, if you just have a look, everything has a bearing on the overall profitability. Basic increase has gone in the finance cost, and a slight increase has gone in the other expenses. So in this particular case, these two items, if we just see, it has at the same time, cost of materials consumed has also gone up. It has gone up. So these three items have got a bearing on the overall profitability of the business. So we have to, while going through any profit and loss account, we have not to see the absolute numbers. We have always to see it in relative terms. Like what was the profitability percent last year? What is the profitability percent this year? What was the raw material consumption last year? What is the raw material consumption this year? So if we see any profit and loss account, any P&L account in this light, then definitely this itself will give us many answers to our many queries. So I think I'm done with today's this thing. If you have any questions about it.
Actually, while listening to you, I thought I'll ask you in between.
Yeah, please.
So what's the difference in expense and liability? Is that kind of same, or what's the difference there?
Okay. Expense and liability, these are two very different things. Like expenditure is which we have incurred. Like I told you about the revenue and capital concept. So liability is something which business has to pay. And expenditure is something which business has already incurred. Suppose I have paid a salary, or I am supposed to pay a salary of say 50 lakh rupees per month. Out of that, so that 50 lakhs is my expenditure. That is my revenue expenditure. And out of that, I could pay only 40 lakhs. So 40 lakhs is, I have already paid. 10 lakhs is my liability yet to be paid. So
good. Thank you.
Liability and expenditure is not equal.
Yeah, good. I see one question in the chat box. Mr. Shobit Tayal, he's asking, should P&L also be project-wise or client-wise?
That will be too much of big exercise. because in that case you have to prepare your set of accounts according to client and project. If it is like too big a business, like one project itself is going to last for 5-6 years or 10 years, like it's a very long term project, and it is going to incur like huge expenditure, and we need to have a separate setup, like separate set of assets and liabilities for that particular project, then it is definitely viable to prepare a separate P&L, profit and loss account, for every client or every project. But in otherwise, you can have an in-house analysis. For that, we can discuss in maybe fourth session. We may be able to discuss that how we can, like, this is like for a complete company as a whole, or like unit as a whole, business entity as a whole. But in case of like project wise, if you want, so how we can have develop internal systems to control all that aspects, that we can just discuss in the next session to come. But in my view, unless it's very like whether it is worthwhile to prepare, keep set of accounts according to clients and according to project, it's, I think, not viable.
Yeah. Thank you, Joseph. Thank you.
Okay. Hope that answers your question, Mr. Shobit.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, good. So in the matter of time, we got only 1.5 minutes, so that we don't cut any answer. I think we should stop this session now. And if anybody has questions, please write down in the WhatsApp group, and our trainer, ma'am, she will respond there in the group.
One
Yes.
learning bite I think
Sure.
we
Yeah,
can
please.
have, that is increase in revenue. Like sometimes we always focus on increase in revenue. It is not always the assurance of increase in profit. We should focus more on increase in profit rather than increase in revenue. This is a learning bite for this particular P&L account. Any questions are welcome.
Good. I think we should
Thank you.
stop because the session may
Yeah.
get ended anytime. Thank you very much for your time, ma'am, and for everybody attending this session. It's very encouraging to us to see you here, and we'll continue serving you. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you, Arvind, and thank
Yeah.
you all the participants. Thanks a lot.